Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. This is another Snap Judgement review. So, what is a Snap Judgement review? First and foremost, I get about 5 to 10 hours with the game or DLC I am reviewing. I am not trying to look at the game or DLC as a whole. I'm trying to give you an idea whether you're going to enjoy it right away or not. I'm trying to avoid the so prevalent I beat the game, so I overlooked the beginning sort of situation that a lot of reviews go through nowadays. That, coupled with the fact that I also believe video games are one of the most subjective forms of art, I will not be giving a score to this review. Instead, I'll tell you what the game or DLC is as an overview. Then I'm going to give you pros and cons from my point of view, as all reviews are. Then I'll tell you whether I personally will be sticking with the game or DLC outside the purposes of this review. So what are we reviewing today? Well, this is one I've been excited for quite a while. This is a DLC review, and it is for Dimensional Shellshock. This is the first big DLC for TMNT Shredder's Revenge, and it follows a very similar pattern that .mu has put down now for these. They created Streets of Rage 4 some time ago, and then its big DLC was a survival mode and then 3 extra characters. Following along with this gives you the new survival mode and then 2 more characters to play with in Shredder's Revenge, which it increases the quite huge roster of this beat-em-up to a full 9 playable characters, considering that you have beaten the story mode at least once and unlocked Casey Jones. So, let's get into it. Survival mode is interesting. This survival mode is very interesting. And again, it's impossible for me not to compare this to the Streets of Rage 4 DLC because they're so similar in what they did. They're both 2D brawlers. They're both classic kind of IPs brought into the modern era. And they both kind of subscribe to the exact same type of DLC, a survival mode and additional characters to play in any of the modes. Now, so I am going to be doing a lot of comparison. There's no way I can't, in my opinion. That being said, I'm a huge fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all 2D brawlers. If you've watched this channel for any period of time, I love them, so I'm very excited to look at this. But, I've got to say, in my personal opinion, falls a little bit short of the standards set down by Streets of Rage 4. But we'll get into that in due time. First, what is this DLC? Well, first of all, it does have a story. A quick and simple story, to say the least. But basically, the Neutrinos show up. They basically implore the Ninja Turtle gang to help them, that they have to jump through different dimensions in order to collect crystals, because Shredder is trying to collect them, and they have to beat him first, or he'll be able to destroy the universe. So right off the bat, it kind of lets you know that you have to collect these 6 crystals in order to, get through the game. I believe you only have to collect actually 5 of them in order to face what's called the Crystal Boss. I have not actually found the Crystal Boss yet, so another big disclaimer there. That being said, I do like the fact that there is a story to the survival mode. There really wasn't one for Streets of Rage 4. Streets of Rage 4 was you're going into a virtual mode to prepare for the challenges to come. And they took Mr. X's brain and use him to create the virtual world that you fight through, so it's just insane. That being said, this is much more oriented into a story. So, once you're inside the world, there is a gem associated with each aesthetic area. The aesthetic area has a certain different couple of spots you can beam into, but overall it's just an aesthetic area. So it's Edo, Japan. There's Mirage, which is really cool, like comic book grayscale kind of aesthetic. And what you do is you then have 2 easy gems, 2 medium gems, and 2 high-level gems. The gems you get are randomly picked, but you have to fight through both the easies to get to the first medium. You have to fight through both the mediums to get to the first hard. The hards include, I think, Omni-Channel 6 is one of them, and then the other one is this kind of 8-bit beatdown sort of feel to it. And basically, as you fight through the different enemies, the different waves, each time you fight through a full wave, you get a choice. The choice involves maybe a perk that you get, maybe a power-up like health to get your life back. You can also get these abilities that allow you to turn into bosses from the original game, like Shredder, Rocksteady, and Bebop. And then there's also shards that you can collect. Shards are how you actually collect the crystal and move on to a new area. As you collect crystals in an area, so let's say you collect the Edo crystal, the next time you go into the Edo period, that crystal, the amount of crystals, the amount of shards you need increases, and the bad guys you face increases. And personally, I'm not 100% positive on this, but I do believe the times that shards spawn for your reward lessen. There's oftentimes you have to pick between a shard and a perk. Shards or perk. And sometimes there's no shards to be gained in any way, shape, or form, which we're going to talk about later. But you're not alone on this new adventure. 2 new characters have entered the fight. The highly requested Usagi Yojimbo, the samurai bunny. That actually was not originally a Ninja Turtles character, but did a lot of crossovers with them and is associated with the Ninja Turtles quite heavily. And then Karai, the daughter/granddaughter, says depends on the subject matter you're reading of the Shredder. Very interesting characters. Usagi Yojimbo is very dash and juggle kind of ready. You can dash in, and if you hit with your dash attack, it actually juggles the enemy and launches you up to hit them with a series of attacks instead of just one, having a full, complete air juggle. Their charge attacks throw people up in the air too. There's a lot of juggle capacity for Usagi Yojimbo, especially in the air. Whereas Karai is much stronger and has a much heavier ground game. Slightly slower but heavy, powerful attacks with her own really interesting aerial attack, a dodge that allows you to vanish for a half second, and then her charged attack, which is a kind of big chain Kusarigama sort of thing that pulls enemies to you, which I found also very interesting. Another thing worth mentioning is the leveling system of the overall mode. As you collect jewels with your characters, you'll actually unlock different like life increases, level increases, overall try increases, stat bars, and this is a completely separate leveling system from the story mode, which is very, very interesting. And that's it. So let's go ahead and get into the overall pros and cons. Oh, actually, you know what? Give me one more second. You can also unlock palette swaps. Palette swaps for all the characters, not just the 2 new ones. So you no longer just have to take them at the straight, at straight whatever they are. They get different skin tones from the originals. You can have one has their eyes removed, kind of old school Eastman and Lard. You can also have them with kind of different face paints or bandanas. That's very cool stuff. Very different color scheme. There's even one scheme that I incredibly like, which makes them black and white, which I just thought was really cool. And then another one that actually makes them Game Boy toned. So let's go ahead and get into the pros and cons for real this time. So pros. Obviously, number 1 pro, replayability. This adds a level to TMNT Shredder's Revenge that allows you to go in and play it over and over again, which is something that fans of these kind of games always love. I gotta say, I don't think any 2D brawler has done replayability better than River City Girls 2 at this point, just because of the leveling system, the kind of openness of the world, the secrets you can find within. I wish that this Ninja Turtles game and some of the other .mu games would start to kind of adopt that. I think that's a really cool way of doing things, but as far as it goes, it was very linear before. Now it's not anymore. You can just kind of keep doing these runs and leveling up these crystals, unlocking new things for your people to go farther and farther. And once you've unlocked all the things for the people, you can always start with another character, which starts you off at scratch in the whole run, which I think is really cool as well. Of course, we've got to talk about the new characters. We're also going to talk about this in the cons, though. Usagi Yojimbo, heavily fan requested. Karai, really cool, interesting, outside-the-box character. I think both of these characters are really cool. They're really interesting, really nifty ads. So I'm glad to see them here. And again, you can also play them in the original story and arcade modes, so it adds that level of replayability as well. Next thing I really liked about this was the unique level system for the survival mode. I like the fact that I could level up my characters, and I like the fact that I level up the characters by getting further and further in the game. That's one thing I never loved about the way that Streets of Rage 4 did it, is you really couldn't level up your characters that much. You didn't really gain experience in the survival mode. You had to get it in the story mode and then bring it over. And I never liked that. I really just wanted to play the survival mode once I got to that point because I'd played the original mode so much, but it kind of made me go back and do that. With this, the leveling for the survival mode is completely separate from the story mode, so even if you've leveled everybody up in the story mode, it's a completely fresh start here in the survival mode, which gives you a reason to go back and play these characters in that mode differently. And then the story. I think it's really cool that they actually put a story to this kind of mode. They gave you like a reason to be doing it, and they actually even put in a nice little cutscene in the beginning, reminiscent of the original games, kind of like very slightly animated cutscenes, which I thought was really cool. You get it at the beginning of every one. Every time you go in, you can always skip it, but I think that's a really cool aspect to it. But you have to talk to the cons, because again, I do kind of feel like this one falls a little bit short of that. So, number one, lack of options. The survival mode in Streets of Rage 4 has so many options to change what you're doing or how you're playing. There's also two different things that you can do. There's a weekly challenge, which is a curated thing instead of a procedurally generated thing that comes out weekly that you can participate in. There's nothing like that here. There's no curated thing. There's leaderboards, but there's nothing like that in this. So it has this, it suffers from this lack of options, and I think you're going to see as I go through my problems with it, is the ways it falls short is its versatility, in my opinion. I think that it got really repetitive really fast for me, whereas the Streets of Rage one didn't, for the reasons I'm about to say. The next one, this one's a personal one. Only 2 characters. We got 3 characters for the Streets of Rage 3, the Streets of Rage 4 one. We only got 2 characters for this one, which I'd be okay with if Mondo Gecko was in there. Why isn't Mondo Gecko? I want Mondo Gecko so bad as a playable character, and this might be a little personal thing, a little personal pet peeve, so forgive me on that, but Mondo Gecko, just all about dashing, riding the skateboard, I think would be so cool to see him in this game as a playable character, and he just wasn't. I understand why Usagi Yojimbo's in there. A lot of people have requested him for a long time, so that's very cool, but I really wanted to see Mondo Gecko. Next, the shard system. Okay, so this kind of bugs me a little bit because, so as we say, as you collect a shard, so let's say you do a run and you collect the Edo shard, right? And then you fail on the next shard, okay? The Edo shards challenge has increased, and it's increased for that character's run every time you go in. So, ostensibly, you can make the first easier areas way harder than the later difficult areas just by completing them over and over again. So that kind of dissuaded me a little bit because now I'm getting these level ups, but I'm making it even harder on myself to even get to the next level, which is really, really frustrating. I don't know, I just didn't like the way they did this. I understand that the challenge needs to go up to give that replayability, but I didn't love the idea of every time I get through that first easy hurdle, that hurdle gets higher. I didn't love that. I would much rather have some sort of system for this, and I'm not a game developer. I can't really say what a better one would be. Just, it's my thought process on that. My next thing, and this really speaks to the kind of like the monotony of this one. So, again, comparing it to Streets of Rage 4, sorry, I just can't help myself. The Streets of Rage 4 has weapons that you use. There's no weapons that you use in TMNT, so it already suffers there, but there's tons of crazy weapons that they added to the survival mode that only exist in the survival mode. They added different skins to them. What else they added is when you unlock stuff in that one, you unlock different like setups for those weapons and what weapons can even be found in the game, which makes things really interesting because it's changing the dynamic of the run. This has the palette updates, which is cool, but it doesn't change the dynamic of the run. They also, each one of these little stages is completely missing one of the coolest things about the story mode, which is the environmental traps. Don't get me wrong, there are some modifiers that you'll start to get as you get challenge increases in each area, such as like winds that'll start to blow you back and forth, or missiles that drop down from the sky during the level. Maybe arrows get shot at you, but overall, they're really cool. Just when you play the story mode of TMNT Shredder's Revenge, every little area has some sort of trap or environmental thing that allows you to interact with it. Whether it be a fire hydrant you open up and shoot a guy with, or you knock something into somebody, or you fall down a cliff, or there's a panel that flips up and hits you. There's so many different things to interact with in TMNT Shredder's Revenge. In the story mode, this mode loses that. There's no environmental stuff other than these little modifiers you get and the occasional cliff in the middle of the map. You don't even move in the map, which I understand it's a survival mode, but it just takes something from it to the point where you do 4 or 5 runs and you feel like they're exactly the same. You're like, okay, this is exactly the same as before. You'll start to get some new enemy types, which I do like, but I don't think there's nearly enough new enemy types to keep you truly interested in it. It also speaks to that with the boss fights. Every once in a while you'll have to fight a boss from the original game. They're quick, they're easy, and it just doesn't do anything. The music doesn't even change. Whereas the soundtrack for Streets of Rage 4 survival mode is honestly, in my opinion, possibly better than the soundtrack of the original game. Whereas with this one, it doesn't feel that way at all. It feels like this one's soundtrack is a little bit more phoned in, so you don't have that bonus. Again, I don't like to do negative reviews, and I know some people are going to disagree with me on this. I totally understand your disagreements. I still have a lot of fun with this mode. I'm still enjoying playing it. I played it with my daughter, and it was great. It's just, on a whole, for what I was expecting it to be, having come off that Streets of Rage 4 survival mode experience, it just falls a little flat for me. Just my opinion, like I said. So whether or not I'm going to stick with it, I am still going to stick with it. I love games like this. I like playing these games. Will I stick with it anywhere near as long as I did Streets of Rage 4? Probably not. I will probably get a little bit more bored of this a little bit faster. That being said, there are still some really cool things about this. I just wish they had made the experience a little bit less samey from time to time. Honestly, I don't think TMNT really benefits from a survival mode. I think what it would benefit from is another story mode, another series of levels. Even if it's only half the side of the original one, I think that's where this game shined over Streets of Rage 4, was the actual level-to-level action, and I would have loved to see more of that instead of necessarily survival mode. But, did I get it wrong? Did I get it right? Go ahead and comment in below. Let me know what you think. Please don't be too mean. I don't like doing negative reviews, but everybody's expecting me to review this one, so I can't avoid it. In any case, you can also reach us on Facebook at OmegaVDH, on Twitter at OmegaV9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below. You can influence this and all of the shows from there. As long as you keep watching this, and we'll keep making them. See you guys next time.